Hey guys, so I wanted to talk about purity culture and the absolutely devastating impacts that this has on women, and the way that it ends up impacting how they operate in their relationships. And I specifically wanted to talk about how purity culture is like a product of misogyny and how it kind of like serves men's desire to like dominate women. I've been thinking about this a lot, reflecting on Latto and her pregnancy announcement. And I kind of debated using her as an example because obviously, like, she's going through such a beautiful part of life right now, having a baby and welcoming motherhood. And I don't want to like contribute to a dog pile, especially when she hasn't hurt anyone. But I think that she just ends up being kind of like the face of baby mama culture, this whole concept of now everybody's getting called a bird, right? I feel like I didn't see people talking about calling women birds or whatever until this whole Latto situation, which, mind you, for context, Latto is a rapper. She just had a baby and she's been in a relationship with a man for a long time. It's kind of the details around this relationship are a bit mysterious because of the fact that she's not public with this relationship. She's never posted publicly with her man. She's never, said, this is who I'm dating. This is who I'm in a relationship with. It is rumored that her partner is 21 Savage, who is another rapper, who is, I think, currently married and has like two other women that he's had a baby with. And sort of the idea is that like she was like kind of like the side piece to this rapper and is kind of like happily taking her role or her position as a side piece, as a baby mama, and getting a lot of heat for that, for like being okay with letting a man treat her that way. Now I have been I do think that there's partially some sexism going on in the way that we are like so disrespectful towards Latto and towards like this relationship that she's in. Like, of course, like, who wants to be a baby mama? I don't think she even wants to be a baby mama, but like this is the position that she's in and she's not hurting any one of us by being in that position. So it doesn't really make sense to me that we're attacking her so hard. But I wanted to use her, like, it was me reflecting on her situation that had me thinking about this, because I saw this clip of her talking about how she's very open about having a low body count and about how she had not been with anyone intimately before she met her man, and that he was the first and he's going to be her last. And she's like very, very big on that. And that's something that she's gotten a lot of criticisms for throughout her career, and how kind of like attached to her purity or her, lack of experience, and how that's like a really big thing that she sort of like brags about and like presents as being like a virtue. And I think that there's something to be said about women who, or like this mechanism, right? Like, because Latto did not come up with that idea on her own, this idea that she's pure and innocent and better, holier than thou, better than anyone else because of the fact that like she has a low body count. Like, that is something that a lot of time comes from religion, comes from patriarchy, comes from men, telling women that their value decreases the more that they engage with men, which is really interesting that men kind of see themselves as defiling women. What's wrong with you? You're able to defile people just by romantically engaging with them. That's kind of crazy. But she did not come up with that idea on her own. But she's, like I said, finds a lot of value in her purity, talks about it a lot. And I would venture to say, it's my little theory, talking about Latto, talking broadly about this kind of woman who, is really, really attached to her purity, that they wind up being very, very vulnerable, because this idea of, and I see this play out so many times with so many of my friends, where they don't have very many intimate experiences and they're so attached to like, by having a romantic intimate experience with a man, I've given him this very special, valuable thing, and I've lost in some way. My value as a woman has been defiled in some way because of the fact that I gave it to him. And I now need to make this thing work. I need to make this relationship work. I need to make him love me. I need to make him choose me. I need to make him pick me, because it's going to be so embarrassing if I gave this to him, if I lost this thing. Like, this is going to be how I prove that I wasn't in the wrong for trusting him, for giving him this part of my body, this whatever. If I can make it work, if I can get the relationship out of it, if I can get him to pick me, right? There's like this real thought process there, right? And so perhaps if Latto was a little bit less detached, or if women in general were a little bit less detached to their own purity, then if you had an intimate experience with a man and then he turned out to like not be the sort of partner that you want to be with, you'd be more okay leaving. You'd be more okay not engaging with him. You'd be more okay saying, okay, like, you're not who I want. I'm gonna go elsewhere. How many women put up with men who are treating them so poorly because they're like, well, I've already made the investment by sleeping with you. I already made the investment by giving you my virginity. I already made that investment. Like, I have to stay now. I have to like push it out. I have to make this work. That idea has existed for a very long time, that even if you didn't want an intimate experience with a man, if it happened, then he like owns this part of you, then like you're now indebted to him or whatever. I'm like, this is like such a random example. I'm literally thinking about the book Circe. I think I read Circe by Madison Miller. And that was like a scene, and this was like Greek mythology, you know, like this has been like a concept, I guess, that existed for a very long time. This like woman got assaulted, and then she was like forced into having to marry the man that assaulted her for a year, because it was like, well, he owned your body, he dominated your body, like you now owe him something. And so I think this concept of like, as a woman, if you're intimate with a man, or if you're intimate in general, you now owe the person that you were engaging with, like that's very strong. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and like specifically talking about how a concern about body counts, a concern over virginity, a concern over like, oh, you know, I had this intimate experience with a man or with a person in general, and feeling shame over it, like why this is really important for us to like deconstruct like the patriarchal roots here, is because of the way that it then controls your behavior afterwards, right? So if men want if men want to be dominant over women, if men want women to not feel safe or like feel like they have the space to leave or the space to say no to him, like what do? You just like instill them with this shame. Like you say, well, like you gave me your body. And a lot of the time, like I feel like this was something I was not so clued into, because of the fact that I was homeschooled for high school and I didn't like get to see these dynamics play out like in real time. The amount of stories that I hear from young girls talking about how, like, you know, they got a boyfriend or they went out with their crush and they were excited, and then he started to convince them that they should sleep together, that they should do something intimate, and you know, it's something that they thought about for a long time and kind of felt a little bit weird about, but like we're really afraid of like losing his attention and him not liking them anymore. How often that winds up, you know, leading to them being like, okay, you know, we can sleep together, we'll do it or whatever, and it's really coming from this place of like, I don't want to lose you, you know. That whole like understanding that that's where like a lot of girls and women's like first romantic intimate experiences come from, is like, I'm doing this from a place of I want to keep you, and then the conclusion there being that, okay, you know, if that man starts to dismiss you, if that man is mistreating you, it doesn't even matter, he can kind of do anything he wants at that point, because it's like, well, I just want to get you to stay. And this is why, like, I got a comment once of someone asking me about body counts and like, I guess an appropriate body count number or something like that, I don't even remember the point. And I kept making this TikTok, and I was like redoing it because I was like, I don't even know if I'm presenting my point well. But I feel like the way that I started to think about this, because I grew up in a religious household, and I grew up obviously, you know, under this patriarchy where I'm like receiving a lot of messaging around purity and around keeping your body pure and blah, blah, blah. All of my feelings and like attachment to purity and innocence and all of that faded the literal millisecond that I realized that I was not straight. Because this idea is that like men, like I was mentioning earlier, defile women, and that men, even other men, right? Like this is something that you see play out in like gay male culture, and they're talking about like tops and bottoms and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, we could just talk about women here. There is this idea that like men defile women. So like the second that I started to think about myself and understand that my love life did not involve men, then that fear of like being defiled, that fear, that attachment to needing to be pure completely dissolved, because I was like, well, there's no one here that is defiling me, and there's no one who's I need to like keep my purity intact for, you know. And even if I were to think about romantic partners that I've had, or just like even just the idea of like meeting somebody and getting to know a woman and like asking her about her past experiences, like in no way would I be turned away because the person that I'm engaging with has had past romantic experiences, has what people would consider a high body count. Like that has nothing to do with me, you know. But it's all about, I see that woman as a full, whole person, and I understand the complexity of her internal world and the complexity of everything that led to her making the decisions that she did, and the decisions to, you know, engage with whoever she wants. And even if it's not that complicated, literally just like, she was like, someone was attracted to a person, I don't know, went to college. A lot of people go to college and get a little crazy. Like, that's perfectly fine. You know, like, what does that have to do with me? But I'm able to have that thought process because as a woman, I don't see myself as owning anyone. I don't see myself as owning my romantic prospects. I don't see them as like owing me anything. And I don't like see their bodies as a reflection of like this thing that I own and this thing that I want to keep pure and spotless and blah, 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 you know? But I think like when we can kind of borrow the mindset of a lesbian, or we can kind of borrow the mindset of someone who isn't invested in or isn't engaging with men, isn't like thinking about these sort of like purity culture war, you know, defiling whatever conversations, when you can hear a little bit from that POV, I think it becomes like abundantly clear what's really going on here. the scheme that we're all being set up in, which is that like men are interested in you being attached to not being defiled, so that you kind of remain in their possession, so that you become obsessed with getting them to continue to like you. That becomes abundantly clear. And it also becomes abundantly clear that the only way that a man or anyone would be side-eyeing you, belittling you, because of past romantic experiences, past intimate experiences, is because they don't see you as a whole person. It's because they don't see you as someone who is an adult, who's capable of making choices about your life. I think a lot of men also get like really jealous of the idea that you would have engaged with someone in the past, which is really peculiar to me. I don't know why I would be jealous of a person's past romantic experiences. Like, that has nothing to do with me, you know? But they just kind of see themselves as owning you, so it does feel frustrating. It's the same way that you're like, if you're gonna go buy a camera and it's been pre-owned, you're gonna want a discount because you're like, well, it's not as valuable anymore. Like, that's the way that they think about it. And I don't think that becomes, or it's harder for that to become obvious until perhaps you see it from like this perspective, I guess, as a lesbian, or I don't know, like, I feel like that can be a way to expose the mechanisms that are at play there. But yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about purity culture and some thoughts and musings that I had on Latto. I do wish her a happy, healthy journey into motherhood, and that, you know, her and her baby can be happy together, honestly. Like, I'm not particularly interested in like judging women for whoever they decide to have a baby with. I think that is one of the reasons why we have a birth rate crisis, low-key. But that is a whole other discussion. Once again, you can let me know anything that you would like me to talk about. And also, if you want to hang out with me, I'm going to Cabo with the World Packers. I'm partnering with them to do an all-girls trip in September. So I have a WhatsApp group that I'm going to link down below that you can join that group to start getting updates about the trip. And I really, really hope that I get to see you guys there. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, guys.